Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's video with me and Michelle Ori. You wouldn't know it, but I've got blue mascara on my eyes. Yeah, probably the best mascara I've ever tried, and I'm not saying that because it's Michelle Ori's cosmetic collection, but rather simply because I have an oily eyelash. I don't want to do the fake eyelashes, and this puppy stays on for hours. I mean, this face that you see right now, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 15 hours. How does 15 hours look? But really what I wanted to talk to you about today is recognizing burnout and the early signs of self-neglect. You know, it's kind of like when you start to notice your mascara dries out. It becomes clumpy and ineffective when it's overused. And it's also when we reach a tipping point, when we ourselves have pushed for too hard. And so many people in my community are feeling this way right now. But you know, by tuning into these signs, we can take action before it costs us our health, our relationships, our inner peace. So, you know, this week when I was putting on my mascara, I was really just thinking about, is it clumpy? Do I need to get a new one? How does it look? And it made me reflect on all the conversations that I've been having about burnout lately. So I think it's important for this time of the year for us to maybe talk about what some of those burnout symptoms could be. You know, I remember going through a burnout cycle myself once upon a time, and it was only after 3, 4 cycles that I had realized and started to experience the manifestation of chronic fatigue, just constantly tired. Couldn't sleep, my sleep was disrupted. There was this kind of constant tension in my body, and I found myself kind of like walking around like this. I didn't even realize half the time that just kind of putting my shoulders down would make quite a big difference. Lots of headaches, you know, and just like the first signs of a dry mascara, these symptoms are our body's way of saying, slow down, please. Can we just slow down? Another one is emotional exhaustion. You know, when you're feeling detached, when something quite tragic and heartbreaking happens and you have zero emotional response to it. You're easily irritable, whether it be with your kids or your partner or even your colleagues who just fly off the handle, right? Or you're emotionally numb, just whatever. You don't care anymore. That's a really, really loud sign. You know, when the world starts to feel dull and our connections with people start to feel dull and they fade, that's when you're running out of empty. When somebody shares a story with you about someone, something, or even themselves, and you feel nothing. You know, I was in a conversation today about the Duke on Fleek community, and I was so overwhelmed with emotion with what Tundi has created and her vision and what she's brought to life. It gave me goosebumps. And I was so grateful for feeling the goosebumps because it was also a sign for me that I'm okay. Another one is mental fog, lack of focus. You know, even simple tasks feel incredibly difficult. You're forgetful. You know, that might be time to actually take a pause and take a step back. Another one that's super important to be aware of and mindful of as you're listening to this video is when you start losing interest in your passions and in your values. You know, when what once brought you joy now feels like a burden. That's a sign that we're on autopilot and we're disconnected from our true selves. You know, I remember one day waking up and going to a coaching session, and my coach said to me, you know, what are your values? And I said, you know, I value health, I value being a great mom. At that point in my life, I was not exercising, I was not sleeping well, I was drinking wine 3 times a week, I had an au pair, I had a nanny Monday to Friday, I had a domestic Monday to Friday, I had a domestic Saturday to Sunday. I mean, I had staff looking after my kids. And that really made me reflect and think about, well, really, what are my values? Values are the things that, you know, you show up and you do them every single day. They're what drives you, what motivates you. It's what you do more and lots of. Something to think about. And then there are lifestyle diseases. Some of them are hereditary, and some would argue that even the lifestyle diseases that are hereditary, if we just put on the lens of epigenetics, that even that can be turned around. So instead of taking a pathogenic approach where we get the illness and then we respond, we take a salutogenesis approach where we proactively prevent disease. So things like high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, you know, just like clumping mascara signals it's a time for a new tube. These conditions often stem from prolonged stress and unmet needs. A really great book to read is one written by Bessel van der Kolk, The Body Keeps the Score. It has so much resonance for me, and I hope if you're looking for some books to read over December, and if any of this resonates with you, I hope that that's a video you take a look at really soon. You know, some could really ask, why do we get to this point? And it's often because we're driven by cultural and social pressures, you know, that reward productivity and self-sacrifice and over self-care. You know, as Brené Brown said, you can't get to courage without walking through vulnerability. But many of us see asking for help as a weakness, and we push ourselves to keep going and going and going, to be strong no matter what. But when we ignore the signs, unresolved trauma or suppressed emotions can add to the drive to keep going, as though moving faster will keep these feelings at bay. But real resilience is actually about knowing when to stop, when to calibrate, and not running until we're completely dry. So when should you call a timeout? Start with the first signs of physical or emotional discomfort. Don't wait until symptoms are severe. If you notice tension in your relationships or you feel a sense of detachment, take that as a cue to slow down and focus on what's being neglected. You know, sometimes this means admitting vulnerability. So just like a fresh tube of Michelle Uri mascara, asking for help can refresh your perspective and bring life back to your routine. You know, talk to a friend, a coach, a therapist. As Helen Keller said, alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. So by reaching out, we find guidance and we gain strength to remain and to reconnect with our purpose. It's really important. So if any of these words resonated with you, you know, to prevent future burnout, create a routine of regular check-ins. Use your mascara to really let you think about whether or not you're experiencing burnout and how it is that you're feeling. Ask yourself, how am I feeling physically, emotionally, and mentally? And remember, you're not the voice. You're the one who hears it. Set boundaries and honor your limits. Saying no is an act of self-compassion, not failure. And lastly, just remember, burnout isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of being out of alignment with your needs. So each step you take to prevent burnout, whether a small pause or putting on your mascara or a moment to reach out, it is an act of self-respect and a step toward a more fulfilling life. Remember, we're giving away 1,000 Rands worth of cosmetics this week. #, make up your mind. Have a good week, everybody.